Good afternoon. I'm Carolyn Biondi, a graduate of Penn's Master of Applied Positive Psychology program and a certified yoga instructor. I'm so glad that you joined me today for this webinar on character strengths to ignite positivity and build resilience. Your microphone is muted and video off, but please feel free to send in questions or comments through the chat or the question and answer. I'll pause in the presentation to take some of the questions, as well as open the last 15 minutes for discussion. It may be helpful to have a pen and paper close by to note your thoughts and ideas. Maybe you have already had a busy or stressful day today. Now is a time to pause and learn some new tools to enhance your well-being. Let's start today by taking 3 relaxing breaths. Feel free to stretch your arms overhead and move in any way to make yourself comfortable. This afternoon, we'll walk through an introduction to character strengths. Then we'll look at the six of the strengths more closely. I'll offer some ways you can keep exploring your strengths, and we'll have time for questions and comments. My hope is that you will leave our session with an understanding of how character strengths can help shift your emotions, enhance your relationships, and enhance your life with some practice and intention. So character strengths are a common language for talking about the positive traits of human beings. Psychologists Dr. Martin Seligman and Dr. Chris Peterson were called to investigate this idea at the outset of the positive psychology movement in the late 1990s and early 2000s. They wanted a complementary vocabulary to that of mental disorders that were classified by the American Psychiatric Association, and they first published their work in 2004 in Character Strengths and Virtues. You can read about this story in Dr. Seligman's The Hope Circuit. I first read about character strengths in Dr. Seligman's book, Flourish, about 8 years ago, and practiced with them a bit over the years. But while studying them in the MAPP program last year, I began to understand them more deeply. The more I learned, the more I realized that they are a starting place for making positive change towards thriving and flourishing. For me, many of the ideas from positive psychology build upon them. So becoming familiar with and integrating character strengths into your thinking and being is a process. Allow yourself some time and practice. As an overview, there are 24 character strengths grouped into 6 virtues. Under the virtue of wisdom, there's creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective. Under courage, there is bravery, perseverance, honesty, and zest. Under the virtue of humanity, there is love, kindness, and social intelligence. Under justice, there is the strength of teamwork, fairness, and leadership. Under the virtue of temperance, there is forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulation. And finally, under the virtue of transcendence, there is appreciation of beauty and excellence, gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. It may be helpful to understand how the strengths were developed. Peterson and Seligman first did some brainstorming about what is good and right in people. They looked at ancient cultures to discover how people have thought about human virtue through the millennia. From this effort, they identified the 6 core virtues. They then comprehensively reviewed the research in psychiatry, psychology, and philosophy, including, for example, the work of Abraham Maslow, Erik Erikson, and Howard Gardner. They looked at popular culture for language about character strengths in places like greeting cards, personal ads, graffiti, and kids' games. And through their rigorous study, 24 character strengths emerged. They then created a psychometrically validated personality test, the VIA survey, to capture the strengths in individuals. So this is a really different and positive way to think about character. Normally, we think about character as a set of traits that are stable over time. But when thinking about character strengths, we do not think of good and bad character or the presence or absence of character. As Peterson and Seligman said, character is plural. That is to say, we all possess some of each of the 24 strengths. Think of it as asking, what makes you unique in how all your goodness is put together? Take a look at the word cloud at the right. These are the top 10 strengths that have orbited in my top 5 in the 5 times I've taken the survey. 4 of the 10 occurred at least 3 times, and 4 occurred at least twice. Only 1 occurred just once, that was prudence, and 1 showed up all 5 times, curiosity. When I look at these 10 strengths, they really do resonate with who I am. So strengths are relatively stable, but do ebb and flow over time. Now, hopefully you are saying, I want to know more about my strengths. The VIA Character Institute is a go-to resource for character strengths, and much of the information presented here today is referenced from this website. VIA stands for Values in Action and is the way that Peterson and Seligman conceived of the character strengths. You can take the free survey here at the website and find many resources for deeper learning. This picture is of Dr. Ryan Nemec from the Institute, who lectured to our MAPP class, and I also draw his lecture in this presentation. His life work is to carry on the work started by Peterson and Seligman, and he recently published Power of Character Strengths, a kind of user's guide. Another book is from MAPP alums Shannon Polly and Catherine Britton called Character Strengths Matter. There are so many resources on character strengths to explore. On Google Scholar, there are over 200,000 studies resulting from the search Character Strengths VIA classification. Character strengths can vary in order and magnitude across individuals, and as such, there are a mind-boggling number of possible combinations of the 24 strengths, sextillion possibilities, almost like a DNA code. To see the magnitude of each of your strengths, you can upgrade your profile on the VIA website for a small fee. Some strengths are more common, like honesty, fairness, judgment, kindness, and curiosity, while others are less common, like self-regulation, prudence, humility, spirituality, and zest. The first of these, self-regulation, prudence, and humility, all fall within the virtue of temperance, which is challenging for us humans. Our top 3 strengths are known as our signature strengths. The signature strengths are easy, essential, and energizing. They come naturally to us and make us feel like ourselves. Imagine that it would feel like something was missing from your life if you could not exercise one of your signature strengths. I am now apt to pull out my signature strengths like a toolbox when I need to shift my mood. because the character strengths can help shift our emotional states. Here's an exercise to try. When you notice that you are in a negative place, angry, sad, frustrated, first take the time to honor the emotion and express it in a safe way. If the emotion is intense, crying, or even ranting and raving in private may bring a necessary physical release to the emotion. Then look at your signature strengths and think about how they can help you to resolve the conflict or simply move you into a new mindset and a different emotional state. Simply put, using signature strengths makes us feel good, and we function better when we are feeling good. Barbara Fredrickson refers to this enhanced capacity and growth in personal resources when we feel good as the broaden and build theory. For more on positive emotions and our well-being, see Barbara Fredrickson's Positivity and Love 2.0, as well as Martin Seligman's The Hope Circuit. So building new behaviors and responses to your environment takes practice. To make character strengths a part of your strategy to enhance well-being and build resilience, you have to figure out how to use them in your everyday life. To help you with this learning process, we'll look at 6 strengths, and I will offer you a journal prompt and daily practice for you to try out. And now I'll look at the chat for any comments or questions, and it will also give you a minute to write down some notes about what we've learned. Now we'll review the virtues and related strengths, looking more closely at one strength within each virtue. First, we'll look at the virtue of wisdom. Within wisdom are the strengths of curiosity, love of learning, creativity, perspective, and judgment. Today, we'll look closely at love of learning. Love of learning helps us take in the sweetness of life. While curiosity inspires us to seek out new experience, love of learning moves us deeper into that experience. This is the capacity to reflect, contemplate, and gain deeper understanding. It can help us persist through challenges and to weather hard times. As a journal prompt to activate love of learning, consider, what do you love learning about? How do you feel when you engage with this learning? How can you go deeper into that topic? Let's take a minute now for you to put some ideas down about how to activate love of learning in your life. You can keep journaling after the session, and as a daily practice, try to lose yourself for a while in a subject or activity that you enjoy and want to know, but want to know better. Go deeper into something meaningful for you. Now we'll look at the virtue of courage. The strengths of courage are bravery, perseverance, honesty, and zest. And today we'll look at zest more closely. Zest is about self-expression, positive emotion, and just keep singing your song. It brings us into the moment and helps us carry on in the face of challenges. It benefits from the motto, fake it until you make it. I find that you really can practice zest and suddenly discover that you feel enthusiastic and engaged. It is one of the strengths most strongly correlated with happiness, so well worth the practice. For example, when I was preparing this webinar and I would get nervous about presenting or frustrated about my progress, I would remind myself that I really am enthusiastic about getting others excited about character strengths, and it really did keep me going. As a journal prompt for zest, try writing in a voice full of zest about something that's challenging for you, even if you're not feeling it. It can help to focus on the why of your task or project. Why did you set this goal in the first place? Do you find that writing with a zestful voice helps to shift your mood? Let's take a minute now for you to jot some ideas down for your journaling. You can continue your journaling after the session, and you can also try a daily practice. Put this journal work into action. Set aside time for a challenging task or project, and begin by cultivating some zest. After the virtue of courage comes humanity. The humanities' strengths are kindness, love, and social intelligence. Today we'll look at social intelligence. Like a wise old owl, social intelligence gives us insight into the motives and feelings of ourselves and others. It offers not only an awareness of others, but also the intuition of what to do with this insight. It can help smooth the path for harmonious relationships and create space for love and understanding. This character strength can be very helpful when we are sharing space with the same people for an extended period of time. But it also helps us connect with new people, which may really give us a boost while we are physically distancing. As a journal prompt to activate social intelligence, when does your social intelligence shine? What are the details about those circumstances, people, places, and things? How can you expand your use of social intelligence to other situations? Let's take a minute now for you to consider some ideas for your journaling. You can keep going with your journaling after the session, and as a daily practice, before speaking or acting in a situation, take a moment and create some space to consider what is going on for yourself and with the people you're interacting with. Observe the difference in the choices that you make when you create space. After the virtue of humanity comes justice. The virtues of justice include teamwork, fairness, and leadership. Today, we'll focus on leadership. Leadership is not just about the strong figure at the head of the pack. Leadership as a character strength is about bringing out the best in others. It is a way of being with ourselves and others. So there is many ways to be a leader as there are people. Some of us do this by setting a good example. Some of us by offering comforting words or inspiring others. Some people are good at organizing things and facilitating cooperation. To activate your leadership strength, how do you lead? Bring your personal expression of leadership into focus. Provide some examples of when you have led or areas where you might be a leader. Let's take a minute now for you to put some ideas down for your journaling. When you've finished your journaling as a daily practice, exercise your style of leadership in different moments throughout your day. Observe its effect on others. See if you are bringing out the best in them. After justice comes the virtue of temperance. The virtue of temperance includes the strengths of forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulation. Today, we'll look more closely at forgiveness. Forgiveness is about letting go of anger, frustration, disappointment, and painful feelings. It does not mean accepting or resigning ourselves to injustice. It does not mean forgetting or denying painful experience. However, it can mean releasing negative feelings that we are harboring and that are holding us hostage so that we can take back our power and control in our lives. We could forgive about the disappointments or losses relating to the pandemic, or we might think about forgiving older hurts about a person or event. As a journal prompt, what resentments are you holding on to today? How could you let go of those negative feelings? And what would the freedom associated with letting go feel like? Let's take a moment to put down some ideas for your journaling. As a daily practice on forgiveness, try a meditation. Focus on breathing deeply. On the exhale, visualize letting go of a negative feeling you have been holding on to. On the inhale, breathe in new positive energy. Next, we have the virtue of transcendence. Within transcendence are the strengths of appreciation of excellence, gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. Today, we'll look at spirituality. Spirituality is about believing in a purpose for being here and in the meaning of our lives. It inspires an awareness of something beyond our understanding. We can feel a sense of spirituality in a group or on our own, connecting through written or spoken word, with music or in nature, for example. As a journal prompt to activate the strength of spirituality, think about how you connect spiritually. How can you find time and space to do so? What meaning and purpose for the day might inspire you? Let's take a minute to jot down some ideas for this journaling. As a daily practice, put your vision in your journal into action. Choose one activity that will cultivate meaning and purpose for your life. Or take some time to be awestruck by something in our creation. So that is a look at 6 of the 24 character strengths. You can keep exploring about your strengths, thinking about some of the following questions. So what strengths on your profile resonated best for you? What surprised you? How can you better use your top strengths? And what gets in the way of using your strengths? You can also explore the life domains. How do your strengths play out across different parts of your life? Where do you feel most comfortable using your strengths? Where might you apply more of your strengths? And you can go deeper. You can read more in Niemiec's The Power of Character Strengths or any of the other references. And you can think about concepts like, can you actually overuse a strength? Or how do you underuse a strength? Do you have blind spots with any of your strengths? Or what is strength spotting and how can it enhance your well-being? And remember, they are all strengths. Avoid these pitfalls. I thought that strength would be stronger. Or I'm going to work on my bottom strengths because they're my weaknesses. Your top strengths are easy and energizing, so lean on them in your life. But you can explore all your strengths, even those at the bottom, but not as a punishment. Do it for fun. Do it to find a new way of looking at the world and a new way of responding. In summary, character strengths can help you enhance well-being and build resilience. You might consider this analogy. Your emotions are like your compass. They tell you what direction you're facing. True north is when you are clear-minded and balanced, when you feel like you're in flow or in the groove. You might have high energy, positive emotions like joy, or mellow emotions like contentment. Once you move off that true north, you aren't so comfortable. You're into the negative emotions. Frustration, anger, sadness, boredom, etc. Recognizing and feeling the negative emotions can help you set you back in a north-facing direction. Then your character strengths can be a roadmap forward, keeping you moving in the right direction and toward your goals. Use your journaling and daily practice to activate the power of character strengths in your life. So thank you so much for joining me today. You can see my contact information on the left, and I will soon have a new website. If you shared your email address, I will share it with you when it's ready. And I hope that your character strengths ignite positivity and strengthen the resilience in your life. I'm going to move to the question and answers and comment section. If you have any, it looks like one came in. So thank you for this question. Where does that leave weaknesses? Well, the nice thing about positive psychology is it's focusing on what is good and right with everybody. So a lot of the times we think about what we naturally think about, what we have to correct and make better in our life, what our weaknesses are. But the whole movement of positive psychology is a response to that tendency in us to look at what's wrong with us all the time, or, you know, kind of like a mindset, a medical model of disease. In positive psychology, we just look at the strengths, because when we build on our strengths, we kind of go into a flow. We feel better. It's easy, energizing to us, so it just puts us into a good path. And we had another question. Any suggestions for how to use this with teenagers in a remote learning scenario? That's a great question. I think this is such a wonderful way to connect with teenagers and get them to feel good about themselves, which is so important. And you absolutely could use these questions. I think are not beyond the understanding of a teenager. I think they would be easily able to grasp. If you look on the VIA website, you can find a profile for each of the strengths with some practices. And then if you go into any of the books on that website, like The Power of Character Strengths, you'll find even more. And I do believe, actually, on Amazon, there is one more resource that specifically is geared towards working with children. I think it's like school age up through, 18. So I would search Amazon character strengths books, and I think something for kids will come up. And then another question, how can we use this in the workplace, in teams? That is a great question. So to begin with, just have everybody take their profile. There's the survey so that they can come up with their profile. And then you can just have a meeting where you all share what your strengths are. A nice idea is the strength spotting idea. So once people are familiar with who has what strength, they can start thinking about how that works together when you're trying to get something done. And you can actively, what strength spotting is trying to actively recognize when somebody is doing, exhibiting a strength like kindness or leadership, and you can call them out on it. That's basically what strength spotting is. And it creates this positive energy. It has a kind of an exponential effect on creating positive energy within a team. Is there any way to use your strengths to discover purpose? That is a really nice question. Off the top of my head, I would say that the interesting thing about strengths is that they can be applied towards so many kinds of endeavors. So it's hard to say, because I have strong leadership or zest, that means I should kind of go in this direction in my life, because you can really use leadership and zest across almost anything. I think with the search for meaning, the best thing might be to do is to get into your strength of spirituality, which is when you are more reflective and you think about you know, the bigger questions in life. You think about things that inspire you. You might also look at your love of learning strength, where you think, what do I really like to go deep into? And that could also start to point you in the direction of purpose. Even something like forgiveness, where, you know, maybe you just have something that was really challenging for you in your life, where, you know, you really had to work hard to let it go. And once you did, you like experienced this sudden personal growth. And then all of a sudden you wanted to teach that. You know, that might be something that happens, because I find sometimes that whatever we really have to work hard at learning about in ourselves, we often want to share with others. So you might think about just focusing on a strength in that way to bring out meaning and purpose. I'm just going to put the slides back on my contact information, and should you think of any other questions, you may absolutely feel free to email me, and I would love to get back with you. Thanks again for joining me today.